You found yourself on another episode of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, we'll be talking about, ask the question, can Coby White be an all-star in 2025? Also, Patrick Williams appears to be close to a return, and apparently LeBron James liked the idea of Zach LaVine being traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central YouTube channels and podcasts. But with that said, man, we want to thank you guys for tuning in. Let's go ahead and get into the content for today, man. So, Coby White, right? So we know that we're now in the All-Star break. The Chicago Bulls do have 8 days off during this All-Star break. They won't play again until February 22nd. And while the Bulls don't have any representation at the All-Star game, you naturally kind of start looking at it, what other players or what's the next player that could be named to All-Star team from the Chicago Bulls. And of course, you have your faithfuls like DeMar DeRozan, of course, who, you know, I think he was lower in voting this year. But then you have your emerging players. And when you look at the emerging players and kind of the next new All-Star to come from the Chicago Bulls, your mind has to go to Coby White, who's averaging right now 19 and a little over 19 and a half points per game on the season, 4.5 rebounds, 5 assists, doing that at 46% shooting and almost 40% shooting as well from three-point range. That's near all-star level right there when you just look at it. Then when you break down how he's been over the last couple of months, Coby White so far, an example, the month of February, is averaging 24 points per game. He's doing that on 48% shooting, 47% shooting from three, chipping in 5 rebounds, 6 assists in that time period as well. Coby White, legitimately, I think, is on the precipice of being the next all-star for the Chicago Bulls, but he has to do a couple of things to get there. One, you know, he's been he really had a slow start to the season. That first month of October, averaging only 10 points per game. Then in November, averaging 15 points per game. He's been above 20 points per game every single month since then, in both December, January, and now in February. And that's a step in the right direction to do that. I think that's also going to help him get to the free throw line more. That's one of the things that I think Coby White has to do, is how he adjusts to defenses. One of the things that we've been seeing outside of the streaky shooting from Coby White is that when defenses have keyed in on him, it's been a little bit slower for him to kind of find his rhythm. Me and Pat actually had a conversation about this, you know, with Coby kind of making those right decisions, making those point guard moves, but not always really taking over the game scoring-wise. Now, that's not to say that he hasn't done that as well. This is our most recent game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. He absolutely did that. Even had an opportunity for the game-tying shot to send us into overtime. Wasn't able to hit it. But so those are aspects of it. When I look at Coby, and to me, Coby White offers that next one that could really be an all-star for the Chicago Bulls. His levels play there. He turns 24, and just today he actually turns 24. So those are big things for Coby White and just his growth and getting there and getting to that next level. Now, outside of just the scoring, I've talked a lot about the scoring. He's doing things like rebounding well, right? He's even getting more assists. And I think him keeping that up right now, he's 90th in rebounds per game in the NBA. Now, that's not anything to necessarily sing home about, but when you look at the fact that he's a point guard doing that, that's going to be a big step for Coby's next kind of precipice of his game as well. It's to really kind of start doing those other things and, you know, stepping up in the big moments and kind of being that more defiant number one overall on that Chicago Bulls team. Now, that's going to have to come via him being more trusted by his team and Billy Donovan going to him more in fourth quarters. But when we see Coby White take over games, that's going to be the thing that I think pushes Coby White to being able to be an all-star. You really got to kind of look at the numbers that he has. When you look at a player, for example, that is an all-star this year in Jalen Brunson, who's averaging 5 more points than Coby White, right? 8 more points than Coby White overall on the season. He's 27th in the league in scoring. But what he does is that you know that when the New York Knicks get close in games, that Jalen Brunson is going to go into a different level. And his coaching, his players, they all support that. And that's really what you want to see from Coby White. I think personally, for him to be an all-star for the Chicago Bulls next up. And I think he's the one that I really look at and say has the best chance, especially somebody who hasn't been an all-star before. Ayo Dosunmu, while he stepped up big time this season, I don't think you can really say that Ayo Dosunmu's numbers, even at their most, are anywhere close to being, all-star level numbers. But Coby White has that conversation around him, and him being in the most improved player of the year conversation. The Bulls winning more games, I think, is definitely one of the big barriers in that as well. Now, that's not in his control. Now, we've seen players from losing team make all-star appearances before, but Coby White stepped up defensively. Not a lockdown defender by any stretch of the imagination, but has definitely stepped up considerably on that defensive side of the ball. He sacrifices his body in trying to draw charges. And then one of the things as well that isn't one of those things that you can measure, but you definitely look at it, is the way of carrying yourself like a number one. In that game, the last game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, we've seen it in other games as well. We saw Coby White get into it verbally with Max Strus and not back down. And, there are two Cavs players there. That edge that Coby White's developing there as well, and as more people start talking about him on both the national stage and things like that, I think that it's safe to say that Coby White is probably the one Bull that you can really look at and say he's the next all-star for this team. And, it's up to him to continue that trajectory, right? He can't he has to still improve further than what he is right now. He has to take that next step. But Coby with his work ethic, how he continues to develop his game, how he puts in time every single offseason to round out his game. I'm going to really be excited to see what Coby White looks like now with having this platform of the season that he's having and how he jumps off into that. Now, I'm not saying that it makes it any more Coby's season any better or less if he's an all-star or not. Some of that's a popularity contest. Some of that comes down to the way that your team is viewed, how that team's winning. Like I said, those things are kind of outside of Coby White's control. But when it comes down to it, man, I think that Coby, and in some shape, form, or fashion, is probably going to be an all-star next year if he keeps this going on. So, but yeah, I let me know what you guys think. For those that are watching on the YouTube side, if you're on the podcast side, you can always get it in the mailbag as well. The voicemail is in the description. But Coby White, just his ascension, it would have been nice for him to be, in something in this All-Star weekend. But, considering the minutes that he's been playing, which is another thing, he's one of the highest minutes played in the NBA so far this season. And because of that, I think that's going to also be one of those things that become a story around him and that he can start getting into some of that conversation. But, Coby, the edge that he's developing, the way that he's turning into a leader on this team, both vocally and with kind of putting the team on his back at times, those are going to be things that really does get Coby White into that consideration, into that conversation of being an all-star. And hopefully that's the case. I love the way that Coby White has just grown this season. And, we came into this season talking about and saying that one of the Bulls' young players had to step up in a big way, a really big way, to really for this team to kind of go further than what they did last year. Now, unfortunately, injuries and other things around it, which we'll talk about, an injury that could be returning here after the All-Star break. But, all those things kind of being around the Bulls, it's just led into a situation where, we didn't get to, to use this to build off of what we did last year. But Coby White and his ascension has basically kept the Bulls the same that they were around last year. And I think that it has to be looked at as a plus when you factor in the fact that DeMar's missed time, Vooch has missed time, Patrick Williams has missed extended time, Alex Caruso's been on the dang injury report every single game for like the last 2 months, right? Zach LaVine being in and out of the lineup, the trade requests. One of the things that have kept the Bulls being a team that has, again, not excelled any expectations, unless you're talking about some of the odds of the Bulls' record. The Bulls are excelling on that, but the Bulls sit right now 3 games below 500, and a big part of that is because of the growth that Coby White has shown this season and being able to keep the Bulls. Yeah, 9th seed, it sucks. Yes, we would love to be more than a 9th seed, but the way that he's played for the Chicago Bulls and the way that he's given that effort, the way that he's developed, has really helped keep this team where they are. And I think for us to kind of extend further than that, we're going to need another one next year, unless this team does something crazy in the offseason, which I don't know about you. I don't bet on the Chicago Bulls doing anything crazy in the offseason. Prove me wrong, though, AK. Please prove me wrong on that. But I think it's safe to say that if I'm picking any Chicago Bull to really be the next one to make an all-star team, I'm personally looking at Coby White to do it. And yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see if he can end up doing that. Let me know, like I said, your guys' thoughts down below on all of that. But next up, we're going to be talking about P. Will being close to a return, even though there's still some concerning comments in what we're going to talk about. But before we get into that, I got to talk to you guys about one of our sponsors, and that is Robinhood. Do you know that even if you have a 401k for retirement, you can still have an IRA? Robinhood has the only IRA that gives you 3% boost on every dollar you contribute when you subscribe to Robinhood Gold. But get this, now through April 30th, Robinhood is even boasting every single dollar you transfer in from another retirement accounts with a 3% match. That's right, no cap on the 3% match. Robinhood Gold gets you the most for your retirement thanks to their IRA with a 3% match. The offer is good through April 30th. Get started at Robinhood.com/boost. Subscription fees apply. And now for some legal info. Claim is as of Q1 2024, validated by Radius Global Market Research. Investing involves risk, including loss. Limitations apply to IRAs and 401ks. The 3% match requires Robinhood Gold for 1 year from the date of the first 3% match. Must keep Robinhood IRA for 5 years. The 3% matching on transfers is subject to specific terms and conditions. Robinhood IRA available to U.S. customers in good standing. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC, is a registered broker-dealer. All right, Bulls fans. So with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into the next topic for today, and that is an injury update on P. Will. A lot of Bulls fans have been asking, what is the status of P. Will? You know, we were given that initially we were given it was going to be day-to-day. You know, P. Will came out, said that he felt he can play, and then the very next day after that, came out that P. Will was going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. That 2-week time period is now passed, and Billy Donovan was asked about that before yesterday's game, and he gave the update basically saying that, that Patrick Williams will be reevaluated closer to the end of the All-Star break, that he has cleared a hurdle. They're going to start doing some on-the-court stuff, seeing how he runs, cuts, things like that, and that the pain in the foot that he was experiencing and the kind of the discomfort there has been alleviated, but now it's time to see how his body responds to getting back on the court, doing the running, jumping, things like that. So that's a overall good prognosis. Now, don't want to stick on the bat or anything like that. But the one thing with this Bulls team is that I don't know about you guys, but I have felt like over the last few years, it's like we get less and less certainty around the way that this Bulls team reports on injuries. That's just my personal opinion. Now, we know that Patrick Williams has historically been a pretty fast recoverer from most injuries. When he had his broken wrist, he came back a month and a half ahead of the schedule that they had him out for. He was able to come back and play 15 games. So, that aside of this, when and maybe there was some uncertainty around it because they were still trying to figure out what was going on with Patrick Williams' foot. Maybe they were a little bit caught off guard by what the injury ended up being. But so that's just kind of little side things to that. To get back on the actual things that happen, I think getting P. Will back on the court is important. And while, P. Will's stats aren't jumped out the stat sheet at you or anything, we still see glimpses of passive P at times for sure for the Chicago Bulls. But, he had that glimpse, right? He had that 15 or so game stretch in December after Zach LaVine initially went down. Let's just go over it. So from December 16th, until the December 30th, Patrick Williams over those games scored double digits in every single game but one game in which he only scored 6 points against the Atlanta Hawks. He had scorings of 25 points, 13 points, 15 points, 18, 13, that's 6, 22, and 13. And then when January started, that's when he kind of started tapering off. That's when that discomfort started happening with him. And so, things fell off there. But for the month of December, when he was fully healthy after Zach went out, Patrick Williams averaged 14 points per game on 52% shooting. He also averaged 50% shooting from three-point range, taking almost 4 3-pointers per game, 4.5 rebounds, 2 assists, right under steal per game. People want to see from where Patrick Williams was selected. I get that, but those were really solid numbers for especially the way that the team was playing as far as spreading the ball around, everybody getting involved. And so getting Patrick Williams back definitely helps bolster the defense, right? And I think having him and Alex Caruso back We can see the Bulls defense, which still has been pretty solid over the stretch of time, can get even better. And that's what you want to see. So getting Patrick back, if he's fully healthy, you don't want to rush him back, but if he is healthy and ready to go, getting him back can drastically help this team, play better over the back half of the season. We got 27 games left after the All-Star break. 27. When you look through the first 19 games of the season, the Chicago Bulls were 26th in offense, 22nd in defense, 25th in net rating, and we had a record of 5-14, which was 26th in the NBA. Through the next 36 games of the season, the Bulls have been 19th in offense, 10th in defense, 13th in net rating, a record of 20-15, which is good enough for the 11th best record in the NBA. This is not to say that the Bulls, that AK was right for not making moves or anything, but when this team, even minus Zach LaVine, is fully healthy and ready to go, and we spread that ball around, we get everybody involved, we're attacking, we're forcing turnovers, we're getting out in transition, the Bulls have shown that this is a tough team. And, that toughness, we'll see how far that takes us. 3 games below 500. Still, not the record that we wanted coming into the season, the growth that we wanted to see. But there are enough signs in this that I would say that this Bulls team can still rise up the rankings, that they still can make it interesting, and they can have an interesting last 27 games of the season. And it's kind of crazy to say that. We have 27 games left on this season. And I remember when the All-Star break was like really in the mid part of the season, where at least you had like 30, 35 games left after the All-Star break. 27 games left after the All-Star break. It's not that many games at all. We got a difficult March. So if we can get P. Will back after the All-Star break to kind of use that the rest of February to kind of gear up, and then go through March, April, and hopefully the play-in tournament being fully healthy, that's what this team needs. I think getting everybody fully healthy is what we need most, to continue evaluating, to know what this team can sit in, and to give AK the most data to see what he's going to do in this offseason. I know there's a lot of concerns that AK isn't going to do anything. We're going to re-sign Pat, re-sign DeMar. At that point, we probably lose Drum and roll the dice and see where we sit. And I understand those concerns. But, while P. Will has been disappointing, I think that's fair to say. Overall, a lot of people disappointed in the play of Patrick Williams. You still want to get him back on the court. You still want to get him back, in rhythm. You want to do all those things. And Pat has things to prove. And this is still a contract year for Patrick Williams as well. And, it'd be remiss to say that AK and Eversley aren't going to consider, the injury, how he plays the rest of the season in those negotiations. And so, while it was debunked, and I'm seeing a lot of people still say, well, Patrick Williams wants $20 million a year. He wants $200 million a year. I don't think that market's going to be there for him, to just be 100% honest with you. I think, Patrick Williams is probably going to be looking at signing something similar to the 12 to 15 million range, similar to Coby White money. I think that's going to be the case. And I know some Bulls fans have that thought process of, let P. Will go. Let's not repeat the mistake. The one person that needs to be over P. Will for P. Will not to be a Bull is Arturas Karnisovas, and he's the one person in the world that's not yet over Patrick Williams and the potential that's still left for that player and on this team overall. So Pat is probably going to be back. And like I said, because of that, you really want Patrick Williams to come back, and hopefully there's no setbacks. And if there is, then that's where you start getting really concerned. A setback for Patrick Williams and him trying to return to the court this season is definitely going to hurt considerably his contract negotiation status with AK in the front office. And I don't know where that's going to end up leaving him. I don't know where that'll leave everybody else. But it's going to be interesting offseason to see how AK really manages this. And the P. Will deal is going to be a really important piece of that as well. The deal that you give Patrick, there's so many different ways that it can go. Do you give him the most? Do you let him go and find a deal out in the market so that him and his agent can know their value, and then risk maybe a team signing him to a super large offer sheet because they also see the potential still in P. Will? He's 22 years old. There's still a lot of time for P. Will to develop. Now, I get it. Like, per what, me and Pat talk about here all the time, like Pat's kind of over Patrick Williams. I go back and forth when it comes to Pat. I'm not going to lie to you. I go back and forth when it comes to P. Will. I still see the flashes of it, and those flashes look so good those times. But then again, you see like passive P comes out. So, I think to eliminate that as much as possible, to get Patrick Williams back in here, back in the building, back healthy, back rolling and rocking with this team. And we'll see what that's going to bring on the back half of the season. And hopefully Patrick is helping the Bulls play. I've talked about it before. I would really love to see over the last 27 games, the Bulls win between 15 and 17 of those games. If they can do that, man, still steady, keep that over 500 pace that they've been on. As far as that, I think that can bode well for the Bulls, but we'll see. But, one of the players that we did talk about their future all throughout the season was Zach LaVine. And it recently came out that LeBron James may have been in favor of Zach LaVine coming to the Chicago Bulls, but we'll talk about that here in a second. Before we do that, I got to talk to you guys about another one of our sponsors, one of the newer sponsors here, and that is Hungry Root. Grocery shopping and meal planning for specific dietary needs or preferences can be challenging. The days are officially getting longer, and while there may be more daylight, do you feel like there isn't enough time in the day? Well, customers that use Hungry Root save 5 hours per week using it without the stress of grocery shopping or meal prepping. Many customers save money on groceries versus the store, as well as eating out less and avoiding expensive takeout and restaurants. Hungry Root can help save up to 30% on food waste each week as well. And with the 40% off for free veggies for life, Hungry Root can save you considerably money. Hungry Root is your partner in healthy living. It's the easiest way to get fresh, high-quality groceries and simple, healthy recipes delivered to your door. Take a fun, short quiz, and Hungry Root will get to know you, your personal health goals, and what you like to eat, kitchen appliances you use, and more. Then they'll build your personalized cart with all your grocery needs for the week and give you delicious recipe recommendations to put those groceries to use. Hungry Root will recommend recipes and groceries based on your personal taste, but each order is fully customizable. Take their suggestions or choose anything you want. They've got fresh produce, high-quality meat and seafood, pantry staples, healthy snacks, sweets, ready-to-eat meals, and much more. Everything from Hungry Root follows a simple standard. It's got to taste good, be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredients. Save hours of planning, shopping, and cooking. Hungry Root delivers foods you'll love. Right now, Hungry Root is offering Locked On Bulls listeners 40% off the first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/lockedon to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com. Don't forget to use the link so that they know we sent you. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into it, man. So apparently, and me and Pat have talked about this, one of my favorite times of years after the trade deadline, when all the kind of details around that trade deadline come out, and a lot of it is speculative. This one does come from NBC Sports Chicago, though, as well, and it says that LeBron James was in support of the idea of the Lakers trading for Zach LaVine. It says this: James was also in support of the Lakers trading for DeJounte Murray or Zach LaVine, two Clutch Sports clients. In the weeks and months leading into the 2004 trade deadline, according to sources, James has serious power in the Lakers front office, and he was involved in the trade to acquire Russell Westbrook in 2022. According to the report, he vouched for the Lakers to team him back up with Kyrie Irving too. And so there's a lot going on around that. So, and when we also pair in with that it was reported that the Lakers and 76ers had LeBron trade talks, but the Lakers were basically like, hey, we want Joel Embiid. And then the 76ers were like, hey, we good, peace. That the Warriors also try to pair Steph Curry with LeBron James and brought him into the Warriors. Hearing that LeBron was kind of favorable to bringing in Zach LaVine, pairing him with Anthony Davis, I mean, it kind of makes some sense. We're seeing that LeBron, while the numbers that he's putting up and the way that he's able to produce at this age is historic, but they need a little bit of help, right? In the days of LeBron James being able to single-handedly push you towards being a championship contender are done. And I don't mean that as any slight towards LeBron James, but when you look at what he's doing at 39 years old, he's averaging 25 points per game, 7 rebounds, basically 8 assists on 52% shooting. Those are historic numbers. But getting a little bit of extra help, and I think everybody kind of realizes that, but it all goes back to what the Lakers are and aren't willing to give up. And, the Bulls reportedly wanted Austin Reeves back in any deal for Zach LaVine. The Lakers were willing to offer up Rui Hachimura, even a first-round pick in a case like that, but they didn't really want to offer up Austin Reeves, which it seems like the Chicago Bulls wanted. All the talk around the Lakers and Zach LaVine, they're going to start back up this offseason. And the question that I want to ask here before we go is that if LeBron James was favorable to Zach LaVine coming to the Los Angeles Lakers, a couple of things would have to happen. If Zach is fully healthy, if the Lakers do crash out this offseason and just look like crap in the play-in or whatever else, or God forbid they miss the play-in, could LeBron then kind of force the Lakers' hand to go ahead and make a move for another player? The Lakers right now, currently the 9th seed. They have a 1.5 game advantage over the 10th seed Golden State Warriors. So, they're probably going to make that play-in tournament, but if they don't make it out the play-in, could the Lakers become desperate and wanting to keep LeBron? We've heard that the Lakers recently said they aren't against bringing in Bronny James. Well, I don't think Bronny James is any type of NBA player. But hearing those things, could the Lakers be back in on Zach LaVine trade talks in the offseason? I think that there may be a chance of that. I think there's always going to be a little bit of at least a chance of that, just as long as you have LeBron James on your team. And we know that LeBron wants to compete every single year if he can. And so hearing this, maybe it is happening. Maybe that Lakers, Zach LaVine destiny isn't completely closed yet. But I guess that remains to be seen in this upcoming offseason. But let me know what you guys think on all that down below. That's my time for today, guys. You guys can follow me at CEO Haize. You can also follow the channel at Locked On Bulls. Go ahead and follow Pat as well at Pat the Designer. I appreciate you guys so much, man. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as Spotify and YouTube and the Odyssey app. So make sure you guys stay tuned in for that as well. But for Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This has been Locked On Bulls, and we out for today. Peace, y'all.